Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to the video. Today I'm going to put together a couple of nesting sieves. I actually used to own a whole stack of these. I think there were 6 in the array, and those particular ones are graded so that you knew what size a given organism was, depending upon which sieve it got caught in. It would give you roughly their size range. And that was kind of useful when you were trying to feed a particular size of fish, fry, juveniles, sub-adults, adults. You feed them a food that was, roughly the size of their mouths, and like I said, it was kind of useful, but I found even then when I had access to all of them, I didn't really use it to that extent. I definitely used the largest one, which filtered out just the bulky stuff and let the rest go through. And then also, of course, the really fine one, which I would use for filtering out Daphnia, Cyclopses, and like when I used to hatch newly hatched brine shrimp, it would also filter that out. And I found those 2 sizes were the most useful. And that's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to make 2 sizes. Not just because I find them the most useful, but also because it's actually the only materials I have on hand. I have nylon screen, which will be very good for getting rid of the bulky stuff. In that case, in my case here right now, that would be mostly getting rid of duckweed, and then also when I'm going to feed scuds and shrimp, it'll pull the adults out, which I can just put back in the aquarium, and then I'll leave the smaller ones, which I'll be using as food for smaller juvenile fish and that sort of stuff, and I can put them in an aquarium. And I'll leave the rest of the sorting to the fish. I find they're pretty good at figuring those sorts of things out. So what I've done here so far is I've taken 4 pieces of 1/4-inch acrylic, and I've turned it down so it fits nice and snugly inside. I think this is 4.5-inch extruded acrylic tube, and as you can see, it's a nice tight fit. And the reason for that is I'm not going to be gluing this together. This is going to be purely a friction fit, and I'm going to wedge the materials between 2 of these pieces. That way I can take them apart and clean them, and it'll be just easier to store, and I don't have to, if a piece of material wears out, gets a hole in it or whatever, it'll be easy to replace. Now for the few of you out there who actually watch this for the machining as well, I'm doing something a little bit different here. In the first clip, when I was machining it down to size and trying to get a nice friction fit, I was trying to do so without warming the acrylic up hardly at all. I was trying to keep it as cool as possible. That way, when it's done and when it does actually cool off completely, it doesn't change much in size. But what I'm doing here now instead is I'm exposing the acrylic to a greater amount of the bit. So you see there's a bigger patch coming off, and watch, it's coming off, and it is more in a melted state. Now the reason why I'm doing that is I'm trying to punch out, you can see the disc there in the center now. I'm trying to punch that out instead of having to machine the whole thing down like from the 1-inch hole all the way out to where I want it to be. I just want to knock that bit out, mostly just a time saving. And if I didn't heat up the acrylic, I would risk it cracking. So this is just a way of saving time and also not ruining a whole sheet, or a whole little piece here, I guess I should say. And now that I got rid of the bulk of the material that I want to remove, I will turn the rest out to size, and I will do so in the same manner as when I was turning around the outside. I'll do it gently, and it won't heat the material up too much, and I'll get a nice smooth finish. Now, when I was doing this, I was trying to decide how much wall to leave on. I ended up leaving a fair amount because, again, this is going to be held together simply by the 2 discs, putting pressure or wedging whatever fabric that's going to be between this. So I didn't want to take off too much. And I really didn't think it was necessary to have too big of a hole in the middle. And then, of course, because they're not being glued together, I can, if it doesn't work out the way I want it to as this progresses, I can easily just put it right back in the lathe and turn it to a much thinner wall if I like. So there it is, 1 done, 3 more to go, but because this is all set up now, it just takes a matter of minutes to get the others to the size I want. which is another cool way of doing these things in groups. The setups are often the part that takes the longest. And in this case, all I do is I just swap one out, and the indicator is already set for it, so it's just a simple matter of like just going back to the same number. So nylon is really easy here to put in place. It is perfect to work with this sort of stuff. And the crinoline, which is the other material I want to use, which is the very fine mesh, you'll remember it from the diatom filter build. It is a much more difficult fabric to work with, but it's the finest mesh I have, and I find it's actually really good for certain things, so it's worth putting up with. Now, one of my intentions when I was originally doing this, I mean, most of you guys obviously don't have access to lathes and that sort of stuff. If you're interested, and if there's enough people interested in it, leave a comment below and let me know, and I will show you a way of making these without all the fancy tools. I mean, you will need a saw, of course. You have to be able to cut the acrylic, but if you can cut a rectangular piece of acrylic, there's a way of doing this without all the fancy tools. And the only reason why I'm doing it this way is, like I said, I didn't want to glue it up. So without the methylene chloride, you have to have a really tight fit for everything. And also, I like the look of this. This actually looks really neat and clean for me. So it is my preferred way of working with it at this point. But like I said, it's not necessary. So definitely leave a comment if you would like to see that, and if I get at least 4 or 5 people interested in seeing those sorts of things, I will definitely do one, like I said, that doesn't require any fancy tools. So there you go, there's one done, and I am going to do the crinoline one now. And for those of you who don't know what crinoline is, well, I mean, as far as all I know is what it's used for is, it's used for linings and dresses, I think underneath dresses. It is just a very fine weave polyester. No. Yeah, I think it's polyester. I'm not entirely sure on that, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't rot in aquariums, which is important. And like as you see, it has a very, very nice tight weave. And that tight weave is more than enough to remove, well, in my case, Daphnia, because I don't really breed much in the way of, hatch brine shrimp anymore, but it will also remove those. And it will also trap out full-grown cyclopses, which is our really good food for not the smallest fish, but for like baby guppies and that sort of stuff. That's the perfect kind of size for them. And I'm not sure, but I think it will also remove vinegar eels, which is something I want to try out with this. I mean, there's a few things I want to try out with this. One of the things I have on order is a really cheap microscope. It's one of those digital ones, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of microscopy, sort of. It's not the best kind. Hopefully it will work enough that I can get pictures, and I'm going to test this out for seeing what fits where and that sort of thing. Now all that's left to do for this video is to set these guys up in the sink and do a little test run. All I'm going to do for this video is pour some water from the immediate tank to the left. It'll have some duckweed, probably some shrimp and scuds, and well, there's lots of microorganisms in that tank too, so we'll see what gets filtered out here. Now normally what I would do is, if I'm just getting rid of the duckweed, I would do the same thing I did with the net. I would just put the larger screen, I'll just leave that one alone in the sink here, pour the water with the duckweed in it, and just to filter all that out, and then just discard it and clean the sieve and be done. But I want to test this out to see what passes through the first one and what will be trapped by the second one, just out of curiosity. And then later on I'll do a bunch more tests of this. And pretty much all updates from now on will be done in the fish room vlogs, just for pretty much everything everything that's here in the fish room anyway. Just for you guys to know, if you want to go look for updates on any of these builds and things, that's where they'll be. It'll just be easier that way for you guys to track them down. Because I often don't remember. Someone will ask me, you did this, what video was that in? And even with the playlists, sometimes I can't find them, and I made the videos. So yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to pour some more water from, I think, the tank 2 or 3 down. There's always duckweed to be found in my fish room. And I'm just going to pour a bunch in here and just to test it out. I mean, this sieve on the top, it works really well. I mean, it does what it needs to do, obviously. And that's very important. And you can see the bottom one there is actually trapping. You can see some stuff moving around in there, and also some smaller pieces of duckweed. I don't think you can ever get rid of duckweed. It's got all sorts of sizes and shapes, and it's pretty much always around. So the last little bit here is just, I'm going to take, partly just to show you how easy this is to take apart, and partly just to show you what gets trapped in here, because there are some interesting organisms. Now, when I get the little digital microscope, hopefully I'll be able to take that little bit of stuff on there and put it in a smaller amount of water and be able to see actually what comes out in it. But we'll have to wait for that sort of thing. So there you go. There's a few things swimming around in there, and that's kind of cool. So as always, leave comments, let me know what you think, and if you like the video and are interested in what I do here, leave a like and or a subscribe. That'll be much appreciated. And I can see I found a buried cherry shrimp. But anyway, this is just, like I said, this is just for a quick test just to see how well it filters out the duckweed and doesn't get plugged up. So there you go, it works. And then this is just a quick rinse and a bit of a dry, and they're good to go. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.